Today I fucked up by picking at my acne while at work. As the title reads, I was picking my back acne at work. Don't know why. Normally I only do this kind of thing at home. I have very acne-prone skin. It's very oily and sensitive, thanks Dad. I have tried so many different cleansers and creams and all that shit. None of it has completely cleared my skin and has always left me with some acne. The most recent cleanser I was trying was not helping and might have been making it worse. Anyway, I was on break and I got bored, so I went to the bathroom, took my shirt off, and went at it. I start by just picking tiny blackheads, popping them, examining them, then washing the stuff off my fingers. I repeated this process several times, and this went on for several minutes. Then I see it. It being a giant whitehead, most likely a cyst of some sort. This thing was at least the size of a nickel, maybe a quarter, and the raised bump was at least a centimeter. Note that this was not the first time I'd seen this thing, but it was the first time I noticed it was ready to pop. Now I will mention that I love popping pimples. Always have. Call me gross, but I find it satisfying. So you can imagine my excitement as I see this thing. So I start to try to pop it. It's in a very hard to reach place on my back and I can't quite get a good enough grip. I struggle for a few minutes and finally get a good grip on it. Some stuff starts to come out, but it doesn't really pop, so to speak. Finally, when I'm just about to give up, I hear the door open and I get startled. In the current position I'm in, my back is facing right towards the door, maybe about a foot away from where I'm standing in front of the mirror. Right at that point in time this thing on my back erupts. I mean, I could hear it pop and feel it pop between my fingers. I turn around to look and I see my manager, standing there with his jaw wide open and my acne pus splattered on his safety glasses and his face. I immediately apologize and start stuttering like a dumbass. Manage to get something like, "I'm so sorry. Let me get a paper towel and help you clean that up," out. I pick my shirt up and put it on. That's when my manager vomits all over the floor. I leave the bathroom to call the janitor and come back to check on my manager. He says, "You're gonna help them clean this up." I got sent home early due to unprofessionalism and inappropriate behavior. Too long did not read. Today I fucked up because I popped a zit on my back in the bathroom at work just as my manager walked in and it splattered and hit him in the face, causing him to vomit everywhere. Is nobody going to question the wisdom of taking his shirt off and popping zits on his back while at work, at a job he just started? It's his fault for popping in unannounced. When it comes up at work, and it will, just say that popping a zit is never anything you would do anyplace but in the privacy of your own home. But in this case it was extremely painful and irritated and being rubbed raw by your shirt, chair, whichever works. And it was just really bad timing that the boss walked in and you are seriously embarrassed etc. Then buy your boss a gift like a bottle of booze to help him forget about it. I simply don't believe this one. The story sounded plausible until the all over the manager's face and safety glasses. That just sounds like too much of a stretch to be believable anymore. From then on, it just sounds like a mediocre entry in a "who can make up the grossest story" contest. You're doing great, sweetie. That's fucking hilarious. That's a great team building activity, right there. Today I fucked up by using broken Spanish and being a Chad without having any clue what I said. So I, 29M, go to this little Mexican bakery every week. They have the best menudo. It's run by a family that is super welcoming and I really enjoy it. They always forget that I don't really speak Spanish and address me in Español, so I do my best to respond. Well, today a new family walks in and sits at the table in front of me while I Nathan's hot dog the baked bread and menudo. The father of the restaurant is giving them the menu spiel in Spanish when one of the group asks about the menudo. The father says loudly to me, "Amigo. Something in Spanish, menudo está bien?" I panicked and repeated what I thought I heard him say. Usually a recipe for confusion and disaster. Here's the thing. Them and the rest of the small restaurant break out in a hysterical laughter? I nervously laugh and head to the front to pay my bill with everyone fist bumping me, and now I can never go back to disappoint them with the truth. TLDR. Used broken Spanish to win the room but have no idea what I said. Edit. Thanks for the reassurance and hilarious stories that relate. I appreciate the family too much to not go back. Maybe I'll muster up the courage to show them the post and get their side _. I'll be straight with you, you're doing fine. Speaking a foreign language with native speakers is terrifying and you will make the kinds of social faux pas you still cringe about from middle school. That just means you're learning. Keep at it. If you're interested in learning more, there are a ton of resources out there. Just keep practicing. It's like learning to play a musical instrument. There are no shortcuts, you need to put in the hours. I, 38M, have made the mistake of attempting to make up a word and told a room full of native Spanish speakers that I was pregnant, embarazado, because I took a stab at adding an o to embarrassed. Lo siento, soy embarazado does not mean sorry, I'm embarrassed. Pardon my still broken Spanish. Probably something like, I have too many good anuses ahead of me to spend my life in a cigar factory. Nah man, the fact that you tried is enough. Most people don't try. And yeah, there are always people that are rude about feeble attempts at speaking their language, but there's jerks in every language. Showing an attempt at speaking someone's native language is the most genuine form of showing acceptance. Something that people in the United States hardly do in the grand scheme of things. Keep at it, and if someone were to ever scoff at your attempts, ignore it and keep trying. Spanish native speaker here. Do you remember any words? At the very least you got a good reaction. Spanish is hard, especially when speaking it not in a formal manner. Just keep practicing because practice makes perfect. Hey, it's okay, it's not like somebody offered you a strawberry in Spanish and you said yes because you thought they were saying hey look it's a strawberry and then realizing after they gave it to you that you fucked up because you're allergic to strawberries. Did you say something about a chicken? Because if so, you might have changed the gender and said, dick, instead. A friend of mine went to a restaurant and tried to order a chicken sandwich, instead asked for a dick sandwich. The waiter laughed for a solid 5 minutes. He always comes in and gets the menudo and tries to speak Spanish even though his Spanish sucks, but he's pretty legit. Watch this. Today I fucked up by helping my mom edit her pictures. Obligatory. This happened a few months ago. I, 27F, was helping my mom, 56F, edit the pictures she took, on her iPhone, when she was on vacation. She told me that she wanted to make them look more vibrant and colorful to make her sister jealous, but that for some reason no matter how many times she turned it off, the live setting kept turning on. So I told her I would fix it. She gave me her phone and I scrolled through her albums a bit to find all her live pictures. And that's when it happened. There are some things that a person does not need to know about their parents. Including the fact that sometimes, they send their partner risque photos of the not safe for work persuasion. Y'all, I saw my mom's bare naked private parts and I was horrified. It took me a good 5 seconds to figure out what I was looking at, but once I realized what it was I froze. I looked up and just stared into the void for a while until my mom asked me if something was wrong. I couldn't hear what I saw, so I lied and just said that I was trying to remember how to permanently turn off live. She didn't suspect a thing, and I hurriedly fixed her pictures and gave her back the phone. It's been seared into my brain, and if I could I would give myself a concussion so I can forget what I saw. I didn't need to see it, and I didn't need to know that that picture exists. Edit. Y'all are nasty, and when I say I stared into the void, I don't mean I stared at the picture, I meant I looked up and spazzed out. Too long did not read. I saw my mom's risque photos when trying to help her turn off the live settings. I think I have you all beat. I found my grandparents' honeymoon photos flushed. It will never leave you. I walked in on my parents over 20 years ago and it's still seared into my brain. I'm sorry you had to see that op. As a kind empathetic person, send me those pictures so I can experience it and share in your pain. Many hands lighten the load after all. Sauce? JK. Sorry to hear about that op. Happened to me too, except I saw my dad's girthy dong in high school. At least now you know what yours is going to look like in 30 years. Be glad it was just nudes and not pics of her getting railed. You got the pics? I can still picture my mother riding my father like a goddamn horse. That was 22 years ago. Today I fucked up by agreeing to be a bridesmaid for my messy niece. Obligatory technically not today, but the fallout happened today, so maybe it counts. My niece, who is actually 2 years older than me and more like my cousin, got married today. She had asked me to be a bridesmaid, which was surprising since we aren't close, but she seemed to really want me to be her bridesmaid and she said I wouldn't actually have to do any bridesmaid duties till the actual wedding since I live in another city, so I agreed. I knew my niece was kinda messy and it might be a bit of a messy wedding, but I figured it'd be kinda fun. I'd get to see family I hadn't seen in a while, all that jazz. I arrived in the city the morning of the rehearsal dinner and found out 3 things. 1. I was one of only 2 bridesmaids. 3 other bridesmaids had dropped out. I was told it was because they all had COVID, but based on the little information the other bridesmaid, the groom's sister, was willing to divulge, that was a lie. Her and I played rock paper scissors to decide who had to be maid of honor and do the speech because the bride just told us to figure it out between us. I won, meaning I did not have to be the maid of honor. 2. The bride and groom had been arguing off and on for about 48 hours, and the groom's mother kept trying to convince him to call off the wedding. 3. I needed to find a new place to stay because my brother, the bride's father, had somehow double-booked his guest room, and I was getting booted for his girlfriend's parents. Why his girlfriend's parents were even going to the wedding is beyond me. The bride and groom offered me their couch, which I declined because I didn't want to deal with a bickering couple. I just got a hotel room. The rehearsal dinner was fine. A lot of people were noticeably grumpy, but at least there was no actual arguments. My great-uncle spent the entire time loudly complaining about the rain. We were indoors. The speakers being too loud. His assigned seat was far away from the speakers. He'd moved closer to them to hear better and refused to move back. The groom's mother wearing too much makeup and showing too much cleavage, dude, and the ugly decorations. But otherwise nothing went wrong. The wedding was the real disaster. In no particular order, here was some of the chaos that unfolded. The groom's brother was an hour late, which would have been annoying but not a disaster except that he was the videographer. It was a child-free wedding, no one under 13 was supposed to attend, but two different sets of parents pulled the, "Oh, our babysitter just cancelled last minute. We can bring the kids in, right?" They're very well behaved. So it was a child-free wedding, except for 3 kids. They were not well behaved. One kid spent the entire ceremony loudly asking questions about everything and his parents took way too long to take him outside. One was literally an infant, so obviously there was crying happening. One managed to disappear entirely for a good 20 minutes. She was fine. There was another reception happening in another room of the venue and she'd gotten into the other reception and was playing tip with the kids from the other wedding. The groom's mother looked like she'd sucked on a lemon. There was not a single moment where she looked happy or even neutral, just stank face the whole time. Every photo, grumpy. Barely said a word the entire time too. The bride's vows sounded like they were printed out last minute from a website. They were really impersonal and she read them out in this stilted monotone. The groom's was full of weird, uncomfortable jokes about how she'd trapped him into marrying her and he'd never be able to hang out with his friends or watch footy or stare at another girl's ass without getting yelled at again. It was a dry wedding because there were recovering alcoholics among the guests, but multiple guests snuck in alcohol anyway. Many of them got pretty drunk. Someone gave alcohol to the bride's 17-year-old cousin, and her parents had to take her home early. The groomsmen, who had been asked to make sure no one was sneaking in alcohol, were the worst offenders and basically acted like they were at a frat party. This was the first time my brother and his ex, the bride's mum, had seen each other in years, but boy was that animosity still alive and well. They both made plenty of nasty comments just in earshot of each other. They snapped at each other. Eventually my brother's ex stormed over to me and told me it was my job to keep my brother away from her. I failed. They kept being rude to each other the whole time. My brother's girlfriend and his parents were weird and standoffish the whole time and only spoke to my brother. They left pretty quick. I still don't know what they were doing there in the first place. The de facto maid of honor was visibly shaking through the entire speech and even with a microphone was barely audible. She was near tears when it finished. If I'd known she was so scared of public speaking I would have done it. I felt so bad for the poor girl. Everyone had been asked to take a rapid antigen test before coming, and it came out that multiple members of the groom's family hadn't bothered, and had just said they were negative. Since they still haven't taken tests we don't know if they were positive. The first dance was so awkward and the groom looked so annoyed he had to do it. Things were still tense between the bride and groom, and the bride went off to cry in the bathroom multiple times. Me, the other bridesmaid, and her mum took it in turns to go console her. Someone stole my 91-year-old grandma's phone and wallet out of her purse? They'd only booked the venue till 10 p.m., but had somehow assumed they'd be able to stay till around 3 a.m. Obviously we got kicked out at exactly 10 p.m. This was fine by me because I was well and truly fed up by then. Too long did not read. My niece got married and I stupidly agreed to be a bridesmaid. It was a terrible wedding. The bride and groom had been arguing, people were drunk and belligerent. We may have all been exposed to COVID, and someone robbed my grandma who does that. Wedding coordinator here. This is about 40% of weddings. This would have been a fun wedding to be a distant friend invited to. Watching all of this unfold while having little skin in the game. What the hell, skull. I just finished reading everything and I'm just shocked by these chains of events. I hope now that it's over you can look back and appreciate how humorous this experience was. You can't make this up. It needs to become a comedy masterpiece. Hilarious. But not for those who were there. There's a great movie script in there somewhere. You should write it. Well, at least there wasn't any fire? What a rollercoaster, LMAO. Damn. The worst thing that happened at our wedding was my mother's hairdresser hitting on my brother and the random guy that came up to me and drunkenly said, "Everybody should be married. Nobody has the right to be happy," and staggered away.